You said we just...
Hi. Okay, here we go. Hey, how are you today? I'm Melissa.
And I'm Rosie.
And together, we're the beautiful beacons of God. And we're going to tell you something funny. We're going to start this video out with something hilarious, okay? Because we keep thinking we're going to do an outtakes video, because if you could see what happens before the video starts rolling, it's hilarious.
Yes,
it's just silly.
Yes,
okay, so we're sitting here and we're talking about our topic for today, which is divine encounters or God appointments. Mm-hmm. And we're just chatting, and our goal is to keep our videos under 10 minutes. So now we're wasting a minute of it to tell you this, but anyways, we think it's funny sort of anyway. Yeah. And so I look up there to think, how much time do we have left? And I'm like, we have full 10 minutes left, because we had just done this awesome video and it was super terrific and we hadn't turned the camera on yet. So here we go again. Divine appointments.
Yes.
Okay. Divine appointments are what we call just encounters that God would put in your path as you are led and as you're purposely following what God has called you to do. They're divine appointments, people that you meet, encounters that you have along the way that just help you keep trucking down God's path for you.
Yeah.
Right? And so today, the one we're going to talk about is that I'm reminded of is the prayer of Jabez.
Yeah.
Several years ago, like a lot of years ago, when we were little, very small young girls, 5, 10. Anyway, Bruce Wilkerson wrote this book called The Prayer of Jabez, and it was a little thin book, but it was super powerful. And so when you go to look at Jabez in the Bible, he's mentioned in 1 Chronicles chapter 4, and in that chapter it's like this name and this name and this name and this name, and then for some reason God decided that Jabez needed to have a little more information about him. So he gave him a couple of verses and told Jabez the story in 2 verses. Now, like, I don't know how God can tell somebody's story in 2 verses. Some people can't even tell a story in 3 books. Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, in this, Rosie's going to read 1 Chronicles 4, chapter 4, verse 10.
Jabez cried out to the God of Israel, "Oh, that you would bless me and enlarge my territory. Let your hand be with me and keep me from harm, so that I may be free from pain." And God granted his request.
You know, I love a lot of things about that. One of the first things I love about that is that God granted his request.
Oh my.
Right?
Oh my.
You know, when you pray in line with God's will, God will answer your request.
Yes,
he will grant your request. And so the other thing about that is, that's one of the topics that Bruce Wilkerson talks about in his book. He talks about him enlarging his territory, making his outreach and his reach out into the world bigger than it was before. And the other thing he talks about is God appointments or divine appointments. And you know what? We can have those every day.
Yeah.
And the problem is, a lot of days we just miss them. We don't even recognize that we've had one, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea is to be intentionally looking for divine appointments.
Yeah. To me, those divine appointments are like aha moments. I love when God does that, because it lets me know it couldn't have been me.
Right.
It couldn't have been nothing to do with anyone around me or anything, nobody but God. And you can have them not only outside in the world, but you can have them alone too.
You can.
When you're
Absolutely.
in your home, yeah. And so those aha moments to me just let us know how real God is. You know, I'm convinced. Melissa, are you convinced?
I'm convinced he's real.
Hey, no matter what goes on and what happens from this day forward, I am convinced that God loves us. He cares for us, and he's here to do what he does best.
Absolutely. And you know, I like my plans. In fact, my husband and I laugh about this all the time. Like, I am happiest when everybody is fully in line with my plan. Like, because I figure, hey, I have already thought it out. I've already counted the cost. I've already, thought about it 14 different ways in my head. And I do that in 2.5 seconds, because I think really fast. But I like people to get in line with my plan.
Yeah.
You know what I figured out over time? My plans, as awesome and amazing as they are, they're not nearly as good as God's plan.
Come on.
And so we want to be in God's plan for our life. And as we do that, as we walk out our day-to-day life, we have these encounters. You know, I had one the other day in a restaurant. It was just one of those times when some friends called and said, "Hey, you and Steve want to go eat with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, Steve, you want to go eat with him?" He's like, "Well, I can't go eat because I have a coaching client. Steven and I are life coaches." And so he had a couple of coaching clients that he was going to work with. And I'm like, "Well, do you care if I go without you?" And he said, "No." And so I was visiting with my friends who happened to be my boss and his wife, who are dear, precious friends to us. And we were just talking about ways to grow our marriage ministry. Steven and I are the co-founders of Bridge Builder Marriage Ministry. And we were talking about that, and we said, there have got to be people out there who can help ministries get started, help grow their ministry and stuff like that. And so my boss's wife had actually said, there have got to be people out there to help you. And I personally said, I agree, but where are those people? And just out of the blue, this little waiter that was waiting on us said, we're everywhere. I'm right here. Wow. And he sat down and he talked to us for a few minutes. Wow. I think he took his break. And so he sat down and talked to us for a few minutes, and he just started telling us about some contacts that we could make that would help us begin to move and to expand our ministry. And Rich and I were talking later that day, and he said, it was kind of a spur of the moment thing that we decided to go eat at Chili's. And he said, when I got there, they wanted to sit us in the bar. And I'm like, we don't want to sit in the bar. Can we sit over here in this other section? Yeah. And she's like, well, yeah, but we only have this one table left. And he's like, that table's fine, we'll take it. And so it's just how God divinely ordered that whole, 2 hours of our time to put us in the right place at the right time. And God loves to do that.
Yes, he does.
But he loves to do that when you give him the glory for it.
Give him the room to do so. And I want to say this, sometimes we feel inadequate, like we don't have the qualifications, the voice, the strength to do something. Do it in your inadequacies, because guess what? That's when God can show you that He's Lord, that He's doing it in you and through you. You have nothing to do with it. Melissa, you talked about your encounter. I started speaking to a group of young women, young ladies, high school. And I spoke with 3 different groups of them at 3 different times. The last group, there was only 2 young ladies there, okay? And we're talking about divine appointments, right?
Right.
Now, there was supposed to be more that came to that last, but only 2 of them showed up. We began to talk, and I just, listened to what the Lord was telling me, which direction to go with them. Well, before it was all over with, these 2 young ladies had an encounter at the beginning of the school year. Here it is at the end of the school year. School's getting ready to be out. That they had never really rectified.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So we were able to take that time that was allowed and talk about these things. And then God allowed each of them to see each other's heart. Now, He had shown me their heart before they even went into depth, but they got to see each other's heart.
That is a big
and that
deal.
helped them to understand why this happened and why that was said and what transpired. But more so than that, how not to allow that to happen again.
For sure.
So those young ladies, they looked at each other eye to eye. And they said, I'm sorry.
Oh,
please forgive
that's beautiful.
me. Yes, and so divine appointments.
Yeah.
And God set that up that day strategically just for those 2 young ladies.
Yeah.
That last session.
And don't you think that's interesting? Because you know what? God cares about individuals,
yes,
right?
He does.
And sometimes as ministers and doing ministry, I don't know about you, but sometimes every once in a while I will have a tendency to say, oh, there's only 2 people here.
Come on.
Right? Where's the crowd? Where's the masses, right? Oh, well, there's only 2 or 3 here. And it's in those times when it's like there's only 2 or 3 here and you're kind of lamenting, your success or whatever. And yet God shows up to do something big.
Goodness.
And He has a divine appointment allotted for that time. So be encouraged. Maybe you find yourself in one of those places where you only have, 2 or 3 people and you're expecting 30 or 50 or 150. And yet there's only a small amount. You know what? God knows where you're at. And as long as you're in His path and you believe that He is ordering your steps and you try to hear His voice and follow that, it doesn't matter if there's 2 or 200 or 2,000 for that matter. God has a plan for that time.
Being faithful over a few things to make us ruler over much more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the numbers, we shouldn't get caught up in the numbers. We need to have our focus on what does God want to do, regardless if it's 1.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you preach the same way? Would you teach the same way? Would you minister the same way if there was 1 or 1 million?
Come on, let's be real and honest about that.
Yeah, let's be real.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to get your flesh in control and say, you know what, that one. You know what? We laugh at church and at the church where I work, and I'm the small groups pastor as well as doing marriage ministry. And so we count people in small groups. Yeah. And people are like, well, you're just obsessed with numbers. And I said, you know what? We count noses because noses count. And people are important. Every one of those people are important. And so every person is important, whether it's somebody that you know, somebody that you don't know, whether it's somebody you intend to meet with or somebody that you don't. Every encounter that you have with people on the planet is important to God, right?
Yes, it is. And here's the thing, Melissa. We got to stop pretending and acting like that's not us.
Right.
If that's you, just admit it. so that God can work with that and deal with that and heal you from that.
Absolutely.
Because the only way you're going to get past it is to be honest and to be real with yourself. That used to be me.
Yeah, me too.
You know, concerned about the numbers or concerned about this and that when it had nothing to do with that or this, okay?
Right.
It had everything to do with what God was trying to do and where he wanted to show you and to get you. If you don't get it right now, you'll never get it.
Right.
And you're going to stay where you're at. And God, that's not his will for us to stay where we're at. He wants us to grow in him.
And he will take you around the mountain again and again and again until you finally get it.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing I love about God, and I think we can wind it up with this saying this is, you know what? God never allows us to fail a test.
Oh, wow.
He always allows us to just do it again. Okay. And he gives us do-overs until we finally get it right. And the beautiful thing is when we learn, hey, listen, I'm going to get it right the first time. Yeah. Right? Like whatever this is you're trying to teach me, God, let's learn it now so we don't have to do this again.
Let's get it done.
Yeah, let's just get it and move on. And so we hope that something that we've said today has been helpful to you and that you have somehow grown in your walk with God today through our video, or maybe you've just been entertained, and we're okay with that too, I guess. We'll let God do whatever he wants to do with our video. We want to invite you to find us on Facebook, Beautiful Beacons of God. We want you to contact us through our
website. beautifulbeaconsofgod.com.
Right.
Also, we have an email, Yahoo, beautifulbeaconsofgod@yahoo.com.
And we also have a YouTube channel by the same name. Listen, if you can remember Beautiful Beacons of God, you can find us.
My goodness, Google us.
Google us, whatever. We are going to have, go check out all our videos on our YouTube channel. Check them out on our Facebook page, on our website. We post them all everywhere. And so we want to help people. And we want you to have a great day. We want you to enjoy the journey that God has you on.
Wow, yes, please do so. Get your friends and family to like our page and to share our videos. And so at this time, together we say, Go God.